Hello.
Hey,
How are you?
good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Sorry, let me know if do you want me to have headphones on?
No, it's fine. It doesn't matter.
Okay, cool. Awesome. How are you
Good.
doing?
Good. Thanks for willing to do this.
Of course. Yeah, this sounds fun. So I'm happy to be at your disposal.
Also, I could just jump around then before getting to Genshin.
Yeah, whatever you want to do.
So the first thing I can ask is, do you have a special story of how you got into SAG?
Good question. Wow. It's been a minute. I've been in SAC for a while. I think the first job that got my gosh, things become so blurry. But I think the first thing I actually ever did, which is funny, that got me into SAG was a voiceover commercial for iHeartRadio. I think it was like McDonald's via iHeartRadio. That was like the first SAG job that got me like or I had already had like two things I had done before that. But this commercial I was super excited about because I thought it'd be a big campaign because iHeartRadio. And then I wound up going in for like a re-record on it. And I remember hearing back what they did, and it wasn't my voice. So the first job, big job that I thought they didn't even use my voice at the end of the day. So yeah, funny, uneventful, but I guess that was the first job. Crazy. I hadn't thought about that in a while. Yeah.
That before your episodic TV work then?
Man. Well, I had done the first thing I ever did. Well, I did a bunch of short films. Like when I first moved to New York, I did a bunch of student films and short films, and that's kind of how I got started acting. And then I did a feature film called Buffalo Boys. That was like the first big film job. And then I did another film called Skook. And then I think this so I think the iHeartRadio came before my first TV gig, which was my gosh, it's so been a minute now. Was it Limitless or Law and Order? One of those. But I know I did a non-union like one of those Discovery ID shows called School Spirits too. Which was ridiculous. That's a ridiculous story we don't have to get into. But yeah, there's and so you do so much you forget the order of things, but somewhere along the lines, yeah, that happened.
What about your experience on Skeleton Twins?
Oh, sure. That was definitely the first big news I had gotten as an actor. I was still in school, and I remember getting the email from my manager being like, "You just booked this film," and I'm looking at it and I see Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig and Ty Burrell. And for anyone who doesn't know, those are, Bill Hader from SNL and Kristen Wiig, and I play Ty Burrell's son. That was like mind blowing. And to be on set with those, I was on set with Ty and Bill, and they were just telling me stories. And like I was kind of that was the first time I think I ever felt starstruck. I was a huge Bill Hader fan, and it was cool. It was just a couple of days, and I literally answer a door, and and that was kind of it. But very, very memorable. Didn't pay a whole lot of money. It's considered indie film, like even though it had Hollywood stars in it, it still was like an independent project. But um that was instrumental, I think, into me like being able to do more things just because of who is in the film.
Was there also something that happened that made you want to pursue voiceover more so than live action work?
Well, the funny thing is I got into acting because I wanted to do voiceover for video games and anime. Like when I was in college, I that's how I kind of fell in love with the idea of even wanting to pursue it. I was always a fan of like, Dragon Ball Z and the Final Fantasy X when there was voice acting in these games, and I was like, "Huh, that would be cool to do." And then I've said this a billion times, but my drama teacher, because I wound up taking like an intro to drama while I was doing pre-med at the time. That's what I went to college for, was pre-med. And then he was like, well, I told him what I wanted to do. He's like, well, if you want to be a voice actor, you got to learn how to act first. So I started like pursuing theater. And then after I left the college I was in New Jersey and I moved to New York, I kind of kept finding my way into theater. and doing TV stuff. So it kind of like started off with wanting to do VO and video games and all anime. I didn't really understand how to pursue it at the time, but it started there, turned into a love for theater and acting, and then I found my way back to voiceover while I was still in New York, doing like promo. For like the first big voiceover job I did was Nick Sports, like they like all the like Rocket Power, and they had a bunch of other ridiculous shows like NFL Rush Zone, where it's like big NFL Transformers. And I did all the promos for that. So like anytime you'd hear like on TV, it'd be like, coming up next is 3 episodes of SpongeBob. You got this and this and that. And I was doing all those for a very long time. So I wound up booking that, and that kind of was my entry back into VO.
Was it also through doing things like that that you wound up working for NYAV for the first time?
No, funny enough, the ridiculous part about NYAV is that I really started taking voiceover seriously in my last few years in New York. I moved to LA in 2020, and I think 2018, 2019 is when I was like, all right, I really want to pursue voiceover more seriously. It's the gift that keeps on giving. I was like, I knew of NYAV at the time, not really, but this whole time I've been in New York for almost 10 years, and I didn't work with them once. And they're based out of New York somewhat. And then when I moved to LA, I wound up meeting Michael and Stephanie, and they've become really good friends to me, and good people. And I'm lucky to work with them. I'm really glad that they keep bringing me in for things, and I get lucky enough to book some of them.
Did you also take to dubbing easier, or was it still hard to get used to?
Well, the first thing I ever dubbed was I had friends. So a good friend of mine and a bit of a mentor was a guy named Bill Timoney.
Yep,
And he's
I've interviewed
voiced
him too.
Oh, great. So, Bill, he's a fantastic guy. He's, a legacy dubber. And he had hooked me up with these people who were doing dubbing for Turkish soap operas, basically. And I was terrible. I was so bad. I was embarrassingly bad. They never called me back, and for good reason. I don't blame them. I had to figure it out, like the skill set that's needed for it. It's a bit different. I'm sure you've talked to tons of people who do dubbing. I'm used to just trusting my instinct and my instrument and doing what I want to do. And dubbing's like, no, 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 no. You got to go down this track. So it definitely took me a little bit. And when I listened to like the first things I've ever dubbed, even the anime stuff, I'm like, oh, I can do that so much better now. So, it's a skill set that you learn just like anything else. But I think I've gotten better.
What do you think in terms of VO? Who do you think out of your larger characters, who do you think that you relate the most to?
Ooh, in voiceover, definitely growing up, I resonated. It'd be funny to say like vampire in the garden, because I can't relate to being a vampire prince, but I would love to think I'm a bloodthirsty vampire in some capacity. But growing up, I think Rindo in a game I did called Neo: The World Ends With You. I think I resonate with a lot of what he was experiencing when I was younger, and trying to figure myself out and navigating life and friendships, and um wanting to just be consumed by my games and be a bit introverted to a certain extent. And also I didn't really like to make definitive decisions, and that's a big part of Rindo's journey. But I think, man, I would say, I mean, Ryota in the first Slam Dunk, for sure. I resonated a ton with his story, dealing with family members, interesting relationships with family, and losing people in your life, and really fighting to try and succeed. And then there's even parts of Freminet and just wanting to be a total recluse and being really introverted that I really resonate with too. So I think you always give a piece of yourself to the roles, and that's why you get them.
Mhm. What about the darkest headspace you've had to go?
Darkest Headspace. I did this movie called Belle,
Yep.
and the character really deals with some tough stuff. I mean, spoiler alert. Well, not spoiler alert yet, but I play this character who's his avatar is a dragon, is a beast, and it's a lot of primal rage. Like I literally am screaming and growling for a good majority of the film, and to not just make that a generic scream and a generic growl, to find the emotion that's behind that. And you wind up finding out later why that is. I don't know if you've seen the film, but when it's revealed why he feels that way, there's a scene that, oh man, that took a lot out of me. And also too, there was a game I did called Lost Judgment. It's with Crispin Freeman plays Kaito in the series, and I play like his like little sidekick, and there's a huge story that happens there, and there's a really kind of like emotionally dark moment that happens in that game too. That was pretty tough.
Do you think that you prefer more dramatic projects over comedic, or no?
Dude, it's so funny, man. I feel like I'm a clown in life. I feel like I don't take anything seriously. I feel like I'm constantly joking. I'm like constantly like good vibes, dude. I'm that type of person. And then I always book these super serious, dramatic, heartbroken, damaged characters, rightfully so, because I think that exists in me. I love when I get the chance to play something fun, and I've gotten the opportunity. Have any of those things come out yet? There's things coming out where I get to play with more like of my comedic side, and certain of characters I've done even prior to that, like even June had a lot of comedic elements to him. And who else am I forgetting? I did an anime called Record of Ragnarok where I played like a pretty funny character too. But I think why I am able to succeed in a very competitive space is because I have a capacity for the darkness that I think I've experienced a good fare of hardship and tragedy in my life to where I can really resonate with those things. So when you get an audition and it's, 500 of the best that all sound like me, those little tiny moments, those little grains that set you aside from somebody else, I think it's because of those moments that I resonate with on a very personal level, because of my own life and my own, um, tragedies and hardships.
Yeah. So with Genshin, had you auditioned for any playable characters before?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I auditioned like when that game first came around. I'm friends with a lot of people in the game, and I remember it's so funny because I worked so hard on some of those auditions, and I felt really good about some of them. I also had listened back after I had booked Freminet and listened to the other ones, and it made sense why I didn't book them versus other people. I think I maybe either not right character, or I just needed to figure out what about me was so special. And it's funny how I got this really kind of interesting character that's again, he experiences a very unique story that will come to fruition. But I auditioned for so many of them, and I'm glad I got Freminet. I think it's something different than I've ever done. It shows a side of me that's vastly on the other spectrum of a lot of characters. And I had given up kind of not given up, that's a bad way of phrasing it. Take that back. I had gotten to a point with auditioning for the game where I was like, I got to stop caring so much. I got to like, just do what I do that makes me unique. And then lo and behold, I wound up booking a character. Funny enough.
Was well, in terms of developing the voice, it sounds like it's pretty close to your natural voice.
It is and it isn't, because I mean, if you hear me talking, obviously there's tones of his voice. My voice sits at a very higher energy place.
Hmm.
And Freminet, it is the quietest my voice gets. And the thing with recording video games is when you think of like a character like him who's very introverted and shy, you like in real life, if someone's shy, you may not get every word that they're saying. They might be, they're kind of shy and talking, and they might just like not, you might not hear everything they say. But in games, you have to make it so it's clear, so that you're getting your point across, and that there's a certain volume that you are projecting at, so that it's able to be heard. So it is a balance of being very quiet and solemn and introverted, but also not being completely closed off to where people can't even understand what you're saying. So, but it's close for sure, but it's definitely it's the quietest and most sensitive, I think, of a character I've played.
Was there any reference basis off the other languages or no?
Yeah, it's funny. Genshin, you don't really listen to the reference that much. I think I gave it my own take, and I've heard the reference a few times because when you do like the videos, like I don't know, I'm sure if you're a fan, you saw like the one where in Linny's intro and also the final feast, you hear we have to hear it to match the time at which it's played out. So I had heard the Chinese a couple of times, and then I remember I saw a video of someone sent me where it was the other voices, and we all sound kind of different, which is kind of
Yeah.
cool. Some deeper, some lighter, some younger, some older. So it's cool. I'm really happy with what me and Chris and Vince and Vincent, we all kind of came to the conclusion of, and I think he's a cool character. I really like him.
What aspects of him can you relate the most to then?
What can I talk about? When is this going to come out?
Well, I usually put stuff up right away.
Okay, so then I'll reserve because he comes out in a few days. I would say from what you hear about in the story so far, I definitely relate to, hmm, I mean, his past for sure, a little bit of he talks about some stuff from his childhood. Um, Obviously he's an orphan and I don't have that um relation, but definitely an experience with my own family life. I can relate in different ways. And I love the ocean. I love going to the beach. I love surfing. I love everything about the water. And there is something really transfixing and magical about being at the ocean. And a lot of the stuff that he talks about is just like this. When I'm out surfing and you're just out there in the silence and there's no social media, there's no phone, you lose track of time and it's just you and the waves. Like I feel like I'm my most myself when I'm out in the water like that. And I think that's a lot of what Freminet does. It's magical, it's beautiful. And that's one of the one of the best parts of living in LA is that you're so close to the ocean.
Mhm. I suppose the biggest difference that would be the shyness factor.
Yeah. But it's funny because I am extremely like one on one when I'm with one person. I feel like I can be myself. But when I feel like there's groups of people that exist and they have their own foundations of the way that they hang out and they've got their, their shorthand with one another, I get real nervous because I don't, a lot of times I feel like I might either be too much or people might not like me. So I revert to being shy and I don't really like to participate yet until I feel people out. So that part does exist for me. And that's where I think I do align with Freminet. But when people know me and I'm with people that I know, I'm very electric and obnoxious.
What about your thoughts on his relationship with Lene and Lynette and his orphan mom?
Yeah, I think for people I've been playing Genshin. I just finally caught up to everything. I played a lot when I started out and I loved Linny's storyline, like the whole thing at the court, and I loved playing all of that. And I think it's one of the best stories in the game so far. Everything
Yeah.
that we've seen and everything to come, I was so hooked. And recording, I was like, "Oh my God, no way." I think it's great. And their relationship as siblings is unique because it's not your typical, like, oh, I hate, brother, like, it's kind of like a brother who is a magician who's kind of in the spotlight. He's a little bit sophisticated, and the younger brother who is extremely reserved, but you don't see like animosity between these two. It's just like there's love in varying ways. And them being orphans, and obviously you learn from Linny talking at the trial, them being part of the Fatui orphans. It adds a very interesting layer that I think people will, I hope, enjoyed and will continue to enjoy.
Mhm. In terms of things that are out so far, do you have a single favorite line?
The thing, so I went to a convention recently and I met a lot of Genshin fans, which was phenomenal. And the one that we talk about a lot is that speech that Freminet has when he's like, Hydro Dragon, don't cry. It's a very cute moment. It's very innocent. I think it says a lot about him and his character. I also really like, I'm not going to remember the quote exactly, but he says something to the effect of he's like, "Oh, I'm useless. I'm not really helpful at things like that. I'm not a helpful person." And I think that says a lot about his character too, about how he feels with other people, the way that he maybe deals with pressure and anxiety and all of those things. And I think it's a character that hasn't really been portrayed yet in Genshin in that way. I think when we were recording kind of as just like a way to relate him, we were calling him like the hot topic Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi's like a zombie, very quiet and kind of got that voice. It's very similar to Freminet, but he is very different, I think. Not just a character, but his story too. So I'm glad that it's something different and it's not more of the same.
Mhm. I do really like the. It's more cute and innocent. I do really like the line at the end of one of the recent trailers with his asking about his penguin to
Ah,
participate too.
yeah, man. I love pear. I love penguins, man. They're one of my favorite animals. Ironically enough, my dad, he worked for a company called Penguin Air Conditioning. That was his job his whole life. And to see penguins come back, like in that way, just like it was cool to see. But it's people love pear. People love the companions, and it's really cute. Do you play Genshin? Are you caught up on everything?
Yeah, I follow the storyline pretty close.
Yeah, very cool. And what do you think? How do you feel about Fontaine and everything?
I do agree. I think what's been out so far, storyline wise, is more darker in a way than anything else that's been in the game, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, it's definitely taking a different aspect of things and the whole court scenario too, like very, Ace Attorney, and that's kind of a different element. I think I really enjoyed playing it. It was cool. Yeah, I hope more of that stuff happens.
Do you think that you see yourself much in any other playable character that's like already released?
Gosh, that I see myself. I don't really know much about him. Because I haven't played his storyline quest yet, but I think if I had to say so, I'd be like Ito, maybe. Like
Okay.
him, I could see that maybe. Trying to think of um you tell me, who are like other silly, obnoxious, bombastic male characters um that maybe I'm not thinking of right now. Hmm.
I guess Kave is kind of in a way.
Kave to a degree, sure, maybe a little bit of Kave. Ito, Kave. Um,
Child has a lot of that too, I think.
Child, sure. I mean, Griffin's a homie to me. We're very similar in a lot of ways and different in a lot of ways too. And what's so cool for me, um, like I said, Griffin's been a really good friend. We play best friends in that game Neo.
Right.
He plays Fred, I play Rindo, and now we're on the same banner in the new update, which is just funny. So I think I just thought that was ridiculous, the way things turn out like that. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, Child too. Yeah, Child's kind of funny and charming and obnoxious a little bit. That court scene, man, where he's like, "Oh, so I guess this is how you guys run things here, huh? I'm just gonna leave," and then just gets crazy. That
Yeah.
scene was wild.
Who would you like to see Freminet interact with from other regions?
Gotta say, I mean, Child would be cool. Um, who is some like Chi-Chi? I guess Chi-Chi would be cool because they're very like similar. I like that conversation. What would that be like? Um. And I just want to see him even interacting with the traveler. I think just seeing the way he deals with people that are not of the same speed, because he is a very introverted person that is, very focused on what he does, making his toys, and being underwater. It's very removed from interaction. So I think anything we see is going to be very fun, and how it plays out. It's so funny because I know it's gonna happen, so trying not to spoil anything. I think I'm doing a good job of it, but I think people are gonna like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you already aware of the like how every Genshin character has their own subreddit and all that?
No,
Oh,
that's they so like just like where people talk about obviously like where with the characters and stuff.
yep.
Okay, so what do they say about Freminet?
Well, they all, I mean, the whole point is like if somebody gets their own subreddit and it's active enough, then people are like really dedicated and love the
Oh,
character. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, I've obviously through my own, I've been streaming the game and on Twitter and Instagram and stuff. I've met and even in TikTok, honestly, has been crazy. Oh, you know who I want to see interact is Scaramouche and Freminet because Pat's also a good friend of mine and literally like the fandom we've been joking me and Pat back and forth. He was at a festival and somebody had a cutout of Freminet next to his booth and he did a little thing like Freminet, what are you doing crowd in my space? And someone animated a scene to that.
oh,
Which is just wild. It's crazy. I love the fandom. People in Genshin are die hard and I love it. And that's what's so cool about it is there's really a love for this game unlike anything I've seen before. And I'm just happy to be a part of it.
I can imagine too that because since so many people that are in Genshin are also in Fire Emblem, I can imagine that you'll be part of that eventually.
Who knows? You never know. I mean, there's so many things that you audition for and you work on. You just keep putting your best foot forward. But I'm a big fan of those series. Big fan of I'm a gamer. I mean, I play everything. I'm a fan of everything. And for me, it is living out a childhood dream to a certain extent where all these series and I played Genshin when it was in beta. So when
Oh,
it started out, that probably hurt me, if anything, when I was trying to get in the game because I was maybe a little too attached to like, oh, I love this game. I love Breath of the Wild, anime Breath of the Wild. Um, that probably made me a little too attached to it and not able to act as well as I could. But I love everything. I'm a huge fan of so much, and I've gotten very lucky to be a part of some franchises that I love, and I just hope I get to keep doing it.
are you also comfortable hearing yourself in projects?
I think I actually don't mind hearing myself because I try to work so hard on creating a character that is not me that when I'm hearing it, it's not like I'm listening to myself. It's like that is a separate entity. And
Mhm.
I can judge the acting for myself, but my voice, I've done so much stuff at this point. Even seeing myself on camera and movies and TV and voiceover, it's like I understand some people they can't stand it and then maybe they have insecurities, but it's like I don't care, man. I'll watch anything I've done. I'm proud of everything I've done. Anytime I get to be a part of something, I'm proud of that and I want to support it and I want to be a part of the celebration. So yeah, I'll listen to it. But there's obviously moments where I hear acting and I'm like, oh no, why'd they take that take? So that's a little hard, but
Yeah.
you get over it.
Well, one cool thing too that I've noticed that the English cast of Genshin is starting to do more now is that um, characters like Freminet in Japanese can often be mostly voiced by women and not actual uh, or guys that can do young male voices. So it's cool
Yeah.
that the English cast is starting to do that more.
Yeah, that's I've seen that many times. I've auditioned for characters where they wind up casting either a more feminine voice or female identifying someone who identifies as female. And I obviously if you can get the character, it's I mean like I think of Christina V voicing Killua. I couldn't
Yep.
imagine anybody else voicing Killua. And she does such a fantastic job. But I think that, for me, with certain characters, obviously growing up and being a little rambunctious boy myself, sometimes having that experience allows me to book certain characters. I also, funnily enough, I think I often book like edgy young boys, when I do things. And Freminet, I think there is definitely that very young, part of me that was very introverted and shy, and maybe that helped me stand out amongst probably the thousands of people who auditioned for it. So you never know.
What do you think in general is the case where you've had to alter your voice the most for anything?
Probably Belle, where I'm literally playing a dragon, a beast. I've also done things where For certain games, I've had to do like a lot of older general characters, so you're really kind of getting deep into your register. For me, I'm not like a I can do a lot of changes to my voice. A lot of the times I try to change with either accent or their speech pattern, but I'm not someone who needs to be like a vocal chameleon. I don't need to, there's people who are great and they have so many different vocalities to their voice. I think I stand out because I can do a good job with the acting. And I think if you're doing a good job with the acting, sometimes the character has maybe an impediment, the way that they speak, or they have a different way that they look at things. I'd rather focus on that than trying to reinvent myself every time. I'd rather just do good acting. And if characters sound a little similar, that's fine because just because their voice print sounds similar doesn't mean that they act similar whatsoever.
So I suppose is Genshin the like most safest recent thing you can talk about?
What obviously the first slam dunk is still in theaters. It just came out in Ireland and in the UK, which has been really exciting. It's kind of making its way around the globe right now, and I'm super excited about that movie. I worked so hard on that. I probably worked harder on that than anything because it required such physicality. Um, Genshin, obviously September 5th, so that's in a few days. Freminet will be released, and there will be more stuff with that. And then what else can I talk about? I'm working on a bunch of stuff. I can say that. I'm working on a ton of stuff, a lot of stuff that should be coming out by the end of the year and early next year. Um, I'm just really excited. I've been very lucky. I've been working my butt off and no days off type shit. And I'm just excited for people to see what's going on.
Is there anything that you want to say to the Freminet fandom?
Uh, I love all of you. Seriously, if anyone who's a fan of Freminet, I think you have a really genuine soul and heart because that probably means you're extremely empathetic and sensitive, and those are the type of people I like to um assimilate with. I think he is going to have a fandom that really is different than other characters. I mean, he's obviously a cute boy, he's got that going for him. He's got freckles, but his personality and his heart and the things that he likes is, I think, different than anybody else. So thank you for being a fan of Freminet. And I hope you enjoy him and Pear and everything else to come. I'm very appreciative and I'm very thankful for your love and support.
Did notice too that was I thought was really cool is that you actually reached out to a Japanese artist to commission art of him.
Yeah, well, there's some fantastic artists all over the world, and I try to work with people that it doesn't matter if they're like the most popular people or whatnot. I've had prints done by unknown artists, and I love to give people those opportunities when they can come around. It's not all about the followers and anything. It's about the art, the skill, the love, and the passion, and obviously how you work with somebody. But I think you're probably referring to Hen, who did one of the ones where it's him on the beach with Pear. Yeah, that print is phenomenal, and they did such a good job. I'm so happy I got to work with them. Um, and I've got to work with some other people. I have a print that I haven't released yet that I'm gonna release. That I adore it. It is so good. I'm gonna release it when his character drops, and I think it's him in a nutshell. And it might be I mean the one that Hen did is really great. But this one is just I think people are gonna resonate with this one when I drop it.
Well, my final question then is always asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
Gosh. Ooh, I don't know. It's hard for me to ever think that far. I just try to I guess in retrospect, someone who looked out for the people coming up, who worked really hard, had a good heart, um, always tried to do the right thing, um, and just loved what they do. I pride myself on being one of the hardest workers I can ever imagine. And I hope people know that I didn't come from anything and I had to work so hard to get where I am, that if I can do it, anybody can do anything. And that's a great question I mean, back to you. I mean, you work so hard, you've interviewed all these people. I mean, what got you into doing this? Like you work really hard. You've had everybody on this show. What made you get into this and how did you even come about doing it?
Uh, well, it had started in the height of COVID. I paid on GalaxyCon to meet Eric Vale for like 10 minutes,
I know
and I
Eric. Yeah.
yeah, and I interviewed him later, normally, like almost a year later after that. But I just realized a lot of voice actors that I was a big fan of for anime that I grew up with hadn't really done interviews talking about the roles that I liked them the most for. So I just
Yeah.
thought to myself that I was going to do this, try and do it without paying for it. And fortunately, it worked out better than I ever thought it would. So
Heck yeah. Congratulations. That's awesome. I mean, I think I have my own podcast. I do kind of a similar thing. It's more from like the acting perspective, but I think it's great. People love hearing these conversations. So that's why, you reached out. I don't do a lot of interviews because I do so many of my own. So I saw how hard you work in getting all these people, and it's great. People seem to love it. So kudos to you. That's awesome. I think the fans are like spoiled as heck right now with the amount of content that people like you and everybody else give them. It's like if I was growing up right now at a time like this with these type of games and getting these interviews with people, I would be over the moon. Twitch, interviews, YouTube, it's crazy. It's so
yeah,
crazy. It's so cool.
thank you.
Yeah, congrats.
Yeah, it is really, ever since I got the idea to start doing Genshin interviews correlated to the character communities, it's just crazy how much that fandom changes everything.
Yeah,
It's so they're so dedicated.
I know. I was at this con and I saw this family came up to me. Well, two things happened. I saw someone with the coolest cosplay, intricate, so realistic. It was a sucrose. They had like strings, so the book like it like looked like it was flying in real life, kind of, which was
Yeah.
so crazy. But then a family came up to me, and I know they meant this as a compliment, but it broke my heart. They said to me, they go, just so you know, we all paid the ticket price to come in here just to see you. And I was like, oh, what? I'm like, why? But these characters, we're ambassadors. At the end of the day, us voiceover people, with the characters, we are ambassadors for the game and the character. As much as a part of me is Freminet, Freminet is the marquee. So we all have a responsibility to be good ambassadors and give people a great experience and allow people who love these IPs and these characters a great experience. So it's overwhelming. It's breathtaking. And the Genshin, it's a lot already. And my character's not even out yet. I met so many people who are fans. It's crazy.
I guess one last thing I just thought of. What do you think Freminet's response would be to like knowing about a fandom for him?
Oh gosh. He would the helmet on immediately and just float away. No, and never look back. Oh, cool,
Well,
man.
thank
This
you.
was fun.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Awesome. Yeah, my pleasure. And thank you everybody for watching. Much love, and thank you for being fans of Genshin and everything. And give it up for this awesome podcast. You got the free capability to watch on YouTube. You're very lucky.
Have a good rest of your day then.
You too. Take care, buddy.
Bye.
Bye.